Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. The Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we face the challenge of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade 1 minute and one increasingly problematic timeline at a time. I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Gerald Christopher St. Ralph. No Latin today. Porter.
And while she may not be a doctor of love, she'll steal your heart anyway. Please welcome back Dr. Valentine to the show. Welcome back, Lise.
Thank you very much, Pete.
Hi, Lise.
Hi.
Hey, Lise.
And today we're talking about minute 67. Minute 67 begins with Henry telling Junior about the final challenge and ends with Indy getting a well-deserved slap and a lecture about blaspheming. And I've got just a general question to start this off. Do Indy and Henry have fake passports? Because it seems like in the 1930s, driving around Germany and like having to come up with your papers periodically seems like it'd be kind of difficult to do for two Americans dressed like this riding an army motorcycle.
Yeah.
I figured their passport is just blasting through blockades.
So you think they leave just a swath of dead bodies all over Germany?
Two-fisted passports.
Yeah, I think Indy's just gonna keep killing border guards or whatever in some medieval fashion.
Yeah, it's Castle Wolfenstein.
I think Indy takes their uniforms at every one he sees.
Oh, okay.
And Dad just crouches down in the sidecar or something.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
You know, Henry says, quote, "He who finds the Grail must face the final challenge, 3 devices of such lethal cunning." And it sounds like after you have procured the Grail, then you will face the challenge, right?
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll be curious to see what happens at the end of the movie. If that's really how things
like
pan
if there
out.
is a final challenge.
And also the this description of lethal cunning, devices of lethal cunning, and booby traps. This doesn't sound like it jibes with people who are, of God and protecting the Grail and caring for it, and even that, and just the fact, like, I want to see the 3 brothers like setting up giant blades that come out of the walls and stuff, and they're triggered by whatever, and digging a pit with like Jehovah written over it and stuff. We'll get there. But
I had a lot of questions about that too, and I think I may have come up with at least somewhat of an answer.
Oh,
because Indy says booby traps, and Henry says yes, and he says he found the clues in the Chronicles of St. Anselm. And I don't know how much you know about St. Anselm, Jerry. I'm assuming a bit. But
Well, I know he was a doctor of the church, and I know that he was born in 1033 and died in 1109.
That's all you know?
Well, and I know that, that's Crusade appropriate.
did that strike you in any way as problematic?
Absolutely.
I know that Sean Connery is in Diamonds Are Forever.
Well, I actually did do some research on St. Anselm, and I saw that there was so much written, and it was like 11:30 at night. And I'm like, I'm sure Pete's got this. I don't know.
Well, no, I don't have a lot, and I actually, for some background, I asked Father David to maybe call in with some information, so we'll see if we get some of that.
Hey, Tom, Pete, and Jerry, this is Father David Mowry. Pete reached out to me to let me know you're talking about the Chronicles of St. Anselm and asked if I could shed any light on that. I'm happy to do that. However, I am sad to say that the Chronicles of St. Anselm seem to be a made-up thing. St. Anselm himself never got farther east than Rome at the time of the First Crusade. There's no indication that he ever went on the First Crusade. However, I did discover information about Anselm of Milan, who was Archbishop of, you guessed it, Milan, who was sent on a minor crusade after the success of the First Crusade to secure a land pilgrimage route through Asia Minor. And when he did so, he fought alongside Raymond IV, Count of Toulouse, who was one of the major leaders of the First Crusade. So, perhaps Henry Sr., continuing the Jones family tradition of being a bad archaeologist, didn't discover the chronicles of Saint Anselm, but the chronicles of Anselm of Milan, who interacted and fought alongside with crusaders who had actually been in the Holy Land. So maybe it was the chronicles of this Anselm of Milan that recorded all the notes about the penitent men shall pass and taking the leap from the lion's mouth and by the footsteps of God he shall advance and all the rest. So that's a possible link to explain where these chronicles of St. Anselm came from, and maybe it's just, one of those academic errors. Anyway, enjoying the show this season. Keep up the good work, and remember that only the penitent men shall pass. Jones!
I find it very problematic that St. Anselm wrote these chronicles with the clues to get past the booby traps, but he died in 1109. Because the Crusades started in 1090, the Crusaders arrived in the Holy Land in 1098. So even if the knights ran immediately to the Grail after arriving in the Holy Land, nobody's going to be old by the time they get back in 1109. I mean, that's 11 years later.
Yeah, that you're.
So somebody's
right.
stories are lining up here. So
Well,
the only way that makes sense. Well,
I'm wondering, could he have prescribed what the future booby traps should be? Given instructions to others, who then execute.
Oh, so he sent the instructions along with the Grail Knight.
Maybe.
Oh,
so the Grail was just sitting there naked in the canyon of the Crescent Moon for like 100 years or 150 years, just unbooby trapped?
or probably like 1,000 years. Maybe.
Well,
Well, okay, so who sets up the booby traps? Is it Yahweh? Is it the the knights?
It's the Havito.
Is it?
Vito.
No, I'm wondering.
Well, we
is
know
it
it's not the knight.
Chasm? Is it?
We know it's not the knight
okay,
because we see that painting
yeah.
in Henry's house of the knights falling to their death over the chasm. So that's
Maybe they.
that's
Oh,
why I'm wondering: are there somebody else that the knights got there and stole it from, and maybe the Brotherhood represents the people that were there first, and they're just.
Or are
trying
you
to
saying
get
they
back
stole
to
the Grail, or they stole the cool cave with all the awesome booby traps that they could use as a
Both.
perfect place to hide the Grail?
No, they like fought their way in. They made it past the booby traps, and they killed the guard, and then they took over the Grail.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say. I think it's cooler if they just take over what's a really good safe place to hide this Grail? Oh, this awesome cave has these amazing deadly booby traps. These guys are just using it to, guard their food or something. Well, nuts to that. This is ours now.
Well, in the famous painting in Henry's house, though, there's one knight who's succeeding, right?
Right.
But that means that the trap was in place when they got there.
That means that. Well, maybe it was Joseph of Arimathea.
That guy was busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if it was him, or was it? God damn it! Wait. Somebody just smacked me. That's for blaspheming.
Can I circle back to the minute for a minute here?
Yeah. Please do.
Yeah.
So in the minute before this, which leads right into this minute, obviously, Henry Sr. was annoyed with his son, right, for not understanding the importance of going to Berlin immediately. But now that they're talking about booby traps, he is excited, dare I say giddy, as a schoolboy. He just lit up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I think I like where you're going with this, please. Indy didn't hear anything after the word booby.
No, but Indy is suddenly the one who's serious, and Henry is all, wow, booby traps, yeah.
Well, then he's like up to his neck in booby traps. He's like, "Oh, great, booby traps again." And Henry's like,
Yes.
"Isn't that neat? Booby traps? Have you ever seen a booby trap?"
Exactly. Not very scholarly.
Is this just one of those like a total throwback to Raiders? It's like, remember how we had booby traps?
That's an Indy thing.
Yeah, the Chachapoyan Temple.
That's almost what I think of the way Henry says. He's like, "Oh yes, booby traps. Everybody loves booby traps, right?" Kids, remember Raiders with the booby traps?
But they were set up by Belloc.
Call back to Temple of Doom. They had some nice booby traps.
That's true. It's an indie thing.
And they had a literal booby trap that led into the booby traps.
That's right. That should have been their first warning.
Yeah.
Well, I am totally confused though. How are the booby traps there?
Yeah. I wonder if
the
the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword was there before the Knights got there, and maybe they're trying to get back.
They
Like, what
must
if
be
they're
there.
following Indy
Somebody's there.
to get back to Grail?
Because somebody has to maintain those blades. I mean, you gotta oil those or something. That's not gonna stay that way.
Yeah.
Well, I like that because that supports my whole chasm theory.
Not really.
Like chasm is oh, come on. Chasm. He's named, what if, is Chasm bros with the Knights? Like, are the Knights in the Cruciform
that's what I'm trying to
cross?
figure out.
And maybe, yeah.
Or are they rivals and they're trying to?
Are they rivals?
They want to come steal it back from the Knights.
Yeah.
And behind all of this, why is there so much throughout this entire movie? There's so much about keeping things hidden and then great effort to lead people to the place where it's hidden and how to get through the booby traps and how to find the markers and how to find the secret place that you're not supposed to find.
Which, okay, I just have to mention how delighted I was when Tommy asked me to talk about this minute, because this minute has one of my favorite movie lines ever that I use in actually my regular, ordinary life. Speaking of booby traps, which is, I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember it. Which I just think is so wise, isn't it? I mean, why use brain power remembering something when you can just write it down as long as you have the thing you wrote it on, which is the whole problem.
Do you ever write something down just for the act of writing it down, and that's what makes you remember, and you don't actually need the writing?
That's
anymore?
true. That is apparently a psychological phenomenon.
That didn't work for Henry, though. But no, that line is perfect. Again, as soon as, Sean Connery's got something about him, because he showed up, and all of a sudden he's got he's got his Marx Brothers line, he's got his, I don't know what else. He's got all these amazing lines that he just delivers perfectly, and it's an awesome moment.
But it's also
this is what's funny. This is comedy. This is not a dumb gag with a stupid stamp and stuff. It's like shoehorned in. That doesn't make any sense. This is like legitimate, like good actors interacting with each other and doing funny stuff.
Well, and it's serious though. It becomes serious quite quickly here.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I don't know if I can agree with that statement or not.
Sure you can.
I mean, it's funny, but I can't agree with calling everything else not funny. But
there's a lot of stuff that's not funny. I'll just say that.
And
I'll put it that way.
I'll say it's well orchestrated.
It is.
And it's
it's
it's great
done.
acting.
And it's actually part of the scene.
Yeah.
It comes out of the scene. It's not like, it'd be funny is if we just did this dumb thing over here.
But it's a nice riposte to what Indy just did, because Indy was remarkably mean-spirited when he says, "Can't you remember?" And it's like his father's mental acuity is declining, and Indy's, lashing out at him for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like this is
Did
only
you
the
take
most
your pill or not?
It's only the most important thing ever that we need to know. How could you not remember? It struck me. So Indy says to his father, "What, you want me to go back? You want me to go into the lion's den?" And it struck me it would have been funnier, but I guess this was supposed to be serious. Had he said, "Do you want me to go into the snake pit?" Or something like that.
You know how I feel about snake pit.
Because wait, sorry, Jared. Let me a lion's den. How many lions are in a lion's den?
6.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought it was just one. Because of all the people, those one lion that we're talking about here, right? Hitler, who is the one person who will not recognize Indy, so he shouldn't be worried about going into Hitler's den, right?
That's true. Maybe.
I actually love that line. You want me to go back to the lion's den, because it's a call out. We get another Bible shout out here. Daniel in the lion's den, which I really like. We the whole thing started. We remember they fly over St. John's in the Grand Banks. I love that. Well, just walking back for a second, when Indy's dad removes his hat, this is the first time we see him hatless, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I guess so.
And that's when he says your favorite line there, Lise, which is, I didn't write, I
wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember it. Should you write that down, Jerry?
Yeah, I should have written it down. Well, what and what we've been saying throughout all these Indiana Jones movies, what do hats symbolize? And when he removes his hat, we see here that Henry made a mistake. He can't remember what it is that he wrote down, so he's imperfect and again vulnerable.
Oh, I disagree 100%. He didn't make a mistake. He wrote it down in his diary so he wouldn't have to forget. He did exactly. He's chiding his son for being a dingaling, for saying, Indy's mad at him for something that's not something to be mad at him for. He wrote something down so he wouldn't have to remember, so he's fine.
But in this certain instance, I think he's counterpunching because he's defensive.
Yeah, but he knows he's right too.
Well, but no, that would be lovely if they had the diary. But I think what Indy's saying is we have everything under control, and we just need this one piece here, and that's great. And the fact that they don't have that one piece means that Henry is wrong.
No.
I mean, it's lovely if you write things down so you don't have to remember them, but that's hurting them right here.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it just
Indy's
would have been much
understandably
better if he remembered it. Yeah,
that'd be
the
great.
End.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but Indy's mad at him for not remembering something that he wasn't even trying to remember. He wrote it down.
Well, if you're searching for the Holy Grail your entire life,
yeah,
you should remember that.
It is. It actually, it is a little weird that he doesn't remember.
Yeah.
He has this one book.
He was so excited about
that.
And that book's only like 60, 50, 40 pages long. It's not that big of a book. And there can't be that many things to remember in it.
Right.
Especially if you drew pictures of them.
Yeah.
I love that he kind of shoulder chucks Indy. He punches him in the shoulder when he goes like, in the Chronicles of St. Anselm. And he punches him kind of like, isn't that amazing? And it goes to show you how disconnected he is from the world.
I got the full set in mint condition.
Exactly. And just how, I guess in a way, monomaniacally is there.
Yeah.
This is his obsession. And isn't that awesome? The Chronicles of St. Anselm.
Is this the first time that Junior has ever taken the Lord's name in vain in front of his father?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think it might be.
He didn't learn the first time?
Yeah, I feel like his reaction shows that maybe this was the first time.
I don't know. I feel like his reaction looks to me exactly like his dad slaps him and he looks sort of towards the camera. Not towards the camera, not Norman Fell, but just sort of away from Henry. And he's like, it's like the last 30 years of my life never happened. I'm 10 years old.
Yeah.
This guy just slapped me for saying Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh, what's the point? How do I detach the sidecar and just get out of here?
Well, I think you're actually right, Tom, because the script says Henry slaps him across the face. Indy is rocked to his foundations, not by any means entirely by the blow itself.
Wow, that's profound.
Wow.
Yeah. But then is Indy? Will he stop blaspheming, or is he going to be even more intransigent from now on and blaspheme even more?
He's going to blaspheme again.
Yeah. As soon as his dad's out of earshot.
Yeah. He might. I mean, he might even do it. He might even do it again. I think. I agree with you, Tommy. I think he takes that blow, and he turns, and what he sees is that green-colored paint in their open, their open first room parlor back in the house.
Fuchsia.
At the very beginning. Yeah, he just sees the paint on the wall, and he's like,
right.
"My God, I'm right back in this room again."
I thought it looked like he was going to haul off and hit him back. He looked so mad. But still, if this happened when he was a kid and he got slapped when he swore, their conditioning would have lasted 30 years. He would have known not to swear. I mean, you get hit, I think you learn, but...
I think you're right, Lise, because when he first sees his dad in the castle, he immediately jerks up to attention and says, "Yes, sir."
Exactly, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's also an adult. I mean, and he hasn't seen his dad for a long time, and he's like,
Yeah.
There's a little, there's a little of both going on. I don't know.
We need to think about the line before it, which provokes Indy to say that. He goes, "A bunch of selfless martyrs."
Yeah.
That
You know?
that's a big statement he's making right there. I feel like
Yeah.
because it seems like Indy is making fun of them because it seems like Indy's saying there's not something bigger than they are.
Yeah, he's calling them selfish.
Right. Yeah.
You think he's calling them selfish?
Yeah. They're
See, I
so
think he's
obsessed.
saying you're not selfish enough. I think he's saying, but I couldn't figure out what he was saying by calling them martyrs. Like, is he saying that there's not something bigger than?
I think he's being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is, but I think it's based on like he's sarcastically calling out the fact that they're not thinking with their heads, basically, or something. They're just blindly following this, thousands-year-old thing without like thinking. Like they're not, like Henry's just forgetting about Marcus. Well, Marcus, we got to find the Grail.
But it seems like Indy's saying that you shouldn't fight against evil if it means any kind of self-sacrifice, or you shouldn't go after something if it means self-sacrifice.
Well, does Indy think that that his dad and Marcus are actually martyrs?
No, he is being sarcastic.
I think he's being sarcastic too.
Yeah.
But I still think he's.
Is he? I think maybe he thinks they're just being foolish and stupid.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he also what the Indy seems to be stupid is that they're willing to sacrifice themselves for something they see as a higher good.
I think he sees that as like a kind of blindness.
Yeah.
Like, you're not thinking. You're not going to accomplish anything. You're just being sort of blindly self-sacrificing, almost like Cosm was back with like the propeller. Like, okay, Cosm, you might get killed, but like, what's that gonna do? Don't. You got a job to do. Don't just let yourself get killed by this archaeologist.
That's interesting though, because these are the third people that have been willing to die for a cause in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So does that mean is Henry's soul prepared?
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised.
What is Henry Sr. religious?
He seems to be slapping his kid for saying Jesus Christ like that and saying that I slapped you because of blasphemy. Seems like it, yeah.
I mean, I think so.
He's taking it seriously.
He's dedicated to this hobby, this very seemingly religious hobby, unless we want to say it's just historic or archaeology. Although it's not archaeology, as he's about to say. But and he's got in the background, he's got the crucifix behind him when he talks about the blasphemy.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah,
that's true.
You know this crucifix though. Sorry, but how long do you think it's been there? That wood looks really green. I think they just chopped it.
Maybe Indy stole the one that was there on his way into the castle, and they had to put up another one.
Yes, he stole the old one. Swap it for a bag of sand.
You know what? Here we are at minute 67, and I don't think we have ever addressed this. Why the hell is Henry searching for the Holy Grail? Like, for religious reasons or for historical reasons? Is it spiritual? Does he want to give it to Marcus to put in a museum? Like, we all know he's obsessed. That's all that matters, all he talks about. But why?
Wow. That's a good question.
If he's a medieval scholar, he was into the Crusades and the.
But
probably got onto some little puzzle hunt.
But I mean, look, but that, like, so is he just like a obsessive collector, or as you said, is he spiritual? Like, is he a spiritual person? I mean, if he smacks his son for blaspheming, I mean.
Yeah, like when he goes to bed
is he
at night,
religious?
Yeah, like when he falls asleep at night, is he thinking, "Oh, I want to try to solve this puzzle because I'm interested in these manuscripts," or is he thinking, "Boy, I want to get my hands on the Grail because this will be enlightenment, or this will be some kind of higher purpose"?
Or does he? I mean, here's what's crazy: we have Donovan at the beginning of the movie saying, everlasting life. It's everlasting life. So does Henry want to live forever?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It doesn't seem like
it.
The
whole search for the entire Grail, no matter who you ask, is really, really, really muddy for me and maybe for the movie. Because I keep getting the impression that God would like you to not look for the Grail and not find the Grail. It's not something to be found. It's something that man was not meant to disturb, to quote a phrase. but like everybody's going after it. Like the only, like, the cruciform sword guys are like, everybody hands off, stay away from the Grail. Like they're kind of, they seem to maybe have the right idea, but everybody, like, what does Henry want with the Grail?
Yeah.
Or is it just, it sort of seems like, okay, if he was just a guy who was like tracing all these pictures in his book and studying all this stuff for his entire life, whether it started off as a hobby or as like a deep-seated, foundational thing for him that he had to learn about and find out about. And then like later in life, he gets the opportunity to maybe actually find it. And, he gets sent off to Venice and stuff. And like that just lights the fire in him. He's like, oh my gosh, I can actually find this thing that I've just been sort of like been hobbying about for 40 years or something.
I think that's it. I think you're right. It's like he was dabbling in mist. He was, and then suddenly he gets to really solve it. And he's addicted. Yeah. It's like a game.
Yeah. See, I think when you go by how he and Indy interact throughout this movie, I think it might also just be he wants to get there at the end of the day and see the Grail and just be able to turn to Indy or turn to everybody else and say, "Hey, I was right," and then just walk out of the room, like not even touch it.
Yeah.
But that's but why? Like why the Holy Grail? Is he just one of those guys who like he collects Lionel trains? It could have been that.
It could be.
Yeah.
Or it could
so.
it could have been like Oneida silverware.
Yeah.
I mean,
but then he got all the Lionel trains and silverware. He's like, what next? Oh, the Grail. That'll take me a while.
Oh yeah, the Grail. Like, I mean, why the Grail?
Well, he's a scholar. Yeah.
I mean, but you almost wonder which came first. Did he like the Middle Ages, or he read the Mort Darther or whatever, and then he got into the Grail, or were they just what were Indy's grandparents like?
Yeah, did Henry dream about this as a kid, and his parents didn't support him, and they were like, don't go after this is stupid, talking about the Grail. You need to work at the coal mine.
Did he have like a little baby cup that he just wouldn't let go of?
Yeah, someone took it away from him.
Yeah, it's just like
hid it behind booby traps.
Yeah, he hid it behind booby traps in his playpen.
Yeah.
I mean, when does this obsession begin?
A playpen of such lethal cunning.
Lil Tykes. Lil Tykes Canyon of the Crescent Moon set.
I have a line here for Jerry, my friend Jerry. I don't know if he picked up on this, but I certainly did. What about Barkus?
I all stuffed up.
100% I think Harrison Ford had a cold for much of the filming of this movie. What about Barkus?
There must be, that's because the rubbing is around.
Yeah.
Must be in his pocket.
Yeah. Oh, his rubbing season.
Yeah.
What about Barkus?
Totally.
Jesus Christ.
I do think they had to redub. Something's weird about the audio on that.
100%. Yeah. This whole scene.
You know what's really weird is the Jesus Christ.
Yes.
That's a redub. Yeah.
It looks like he's saying it's like they chose to replace whatever he said with Jesus Christ. Like he said, "Fuck you, Dad," but he's actually replaced it with Jesus Christ.
That's true. Okay, so wait. Indy's dad says the only thing that matters in the Grail is the Grail, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking, so how many times in his life has Indy heard that? his 10th
Count
birthday, his graduation. Yeah.
The soccer playoffs are tomorrow.
Nope. Exactly. Dad, I just got hired at Marshall College. The only thing that matters is the Grail.
It's not archaeology.
Dad, I love you.
Happy Father's Day. The only thing that matters is the Grail. Can we go play miniature golf? It's my birthday. The only thing that matters is the Grail.
What do you think about his when Indy says, "What about Barkus?" What do you think? What do you think Henry's response means? Do you think Marcus really would agree with him, or do you think Marcus would be like, "No, come after me"?
You know what's interesting that just occurred to me this instant? Maybe Indy agrees with him too. Like under normal circumstances, if he wasn't arguing with his dad, Indy would 100% be like, geez, we got to do everything we can to get the... I mean, he is like that.
Yeah.
But he's arguing with his dad about going to Berlin and getting the diary as a means to getting the Grail. Like, I think, the three of these guys, they're, they want to get the Grail just because that's who they are. They're that kind of guy, finders of lost stuff, obtainers of rare antiquities. But also, like, the Nazis are onto it now. They're on the trail, and so it is like a race against evil. So yeah, I think
I agree.
all three of them would agree with Marcus, but Indy right now is arguing with his dad, so he can't just be totally honest about that.
Yeah, I think so too. Because Indy rode a submarine into a German base to get what he wanted. So I don't think going to Berlin's a problem.
Yeah, he's hurt. Indy's still hurt because his dad's not impressed with him. So he's just reacting out of that. I think if this were a more emotionally level time, he would absolutely agree. Let's go see Hitler.
I think that Marcus would agree, and Henry's right, that Marcus would agree with him saying, you need to get the diary, go into Berlin. But if I could get a sad bell for a minute, I don't know why I feel that way, because Marcus is just so mealy-mouthed and spineless that it's like, I don't know what Marcus really would think. Like, I can't imagine him saying, like, yeah, that's, like, Henry's right. I just imagine him now going, like,
He would.
and then, no, it's true. Like, I don't know. I don't know what Marcus stands for.
You do. You just are thrown because you're seeing him, caught with his pants down. He's out of his element.
There was a point with time I did know what Marcus stood for, but now he's like, oh, Marcus would agree, and I imagined in my brain, there's Marcus saying, like, go get it, Indy, and I'm like, nah. I just don't see it. I just see him as being confused and hard of hearing, and like, what? No, I agree. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You've been hurt, Jerry.
Yes. A quail. Whatever.
It's a whirlpool bath, so.
I don't know. I guess, sure, Marcus would agree. Sure.
Just picture Marcus, lounging in the back corner of some cocktail party. Oh, yes, Indy, quite right. Go after the thing.
All right.
Okay. There you go.
Hey, we have a very, very famous line here at the end of this minute, and I don't know how it ends because I didn't write it down. I don't remember this movie, and the famous line gets cut off. So if you guys could fill in the blank here for me,
because you got to wait till next minute.
Well, come on! We'll just play it. Lise, let's play a little Mad Libs, kind of like we did in 1987. Henry says, the quest for the Grail, it's not archaeology, it's... I don't remember what he says, and I'm dying to know.
Just have to wait, Jerry.
Aw, you guys are killing
Memorex. I want Indy to be like, wait, what? It's not archaeology?
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
Yeah, wait, what?
Well, I was almost like the way he responds when he says that's for blasphemy. The quest is not archaeology. It's almost like the blasphemy is that Indy thinks that the quest for Grail is archaeology. Not that he's just actually blasphemed.
We know it's so stupid. We know Indy knows what archaeology is. It's 80% in the library.
20% destroying everything old.
Yeah, but we know. He's like, no, of course the quest for the Grail isn't archaeology. No, archaeology is that boring
It's Boobytraps is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Archaeology is like that part where I have to, like, I can't stand it, and everybody's screaming my name, and I have to jump out the window.
No, I still feel like Henry Sr. is looking for something of a religious nature, or at least something of a spiritual or even just an intellectual enlightenment nature. And I think that's why he's saying this isn't just some archaeological thing we're involved in. This isn't, don't blaspheme. This is something bigger than all of us.
But would he have said that before he knew the Nazis were involved? Or are the Nazis what changed the game here and make this a good versus evil contest? What if these were all benevolent people finding the Grail? Would he still feel the same way?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. Yeah, I'm not totally. We'll get into it next minute, I guess, but I'm not totally sold on what Henry's laying down. right now.
Oh, well, okay. So we talked about, so if Indy gets the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Covenant winds up on the 4th floor of Marshall College Geology Building, as we say, or whatever, quote, in the museum. So what if Henry gets the Grail? What does he do with it?
He takes a picture of it and then goes home.
See,
Use his iPhone.
Does he just like that's his new sippy cup?
Just, I mean, would he?
Like he drinks out of it
I have
every evening.
no, or just would he keep it? Would he give it to Marcus?
Yeah, would he let his
Yeah,
friends
put it in
have
the
drinks?
museum. Put it in the museum.
I feel like he'd use it for devotional purposes.
Like just in his house, or would he take it to like the the
Like St.
local
Patrick's
St.
Cathedral
Joseph
or something?
parish? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I feel like his interest, while perhaps misplaced, is maybe better than the motivation that Indy often has.
Yeah, I still think Henry Sr. is really just all about the chase and the game because he was ready to let it go. Once they found it, he was like, okay, I don't need it anymore. It's Indy and Elsa who are all like, I need it, I can't let it go.
Yeah.
But Henry's like, it's fine, I'm over. I solved this, I'm done. It's fine.
That's true.
Although, to be fair, he had
so-
also had a drink out of it by that point.
He had, it saved his life. Saved his life, that was enough.
Well, so is this just one of those things where Henry Sr. has an addiction? And it's really, he's
obsession.
obsessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's obsessing about the Grail because he can't deal with regular life.
Yeah,
He's,
maybe.
just, he's
maybe.
using
Yeah.
the Grail
Yeah.
as a crutch just to shut everything out. And it's so far it's worked a little bit because he's been able to get a job, right? He's a professor. You know what I mean? He can pay. He can
Supports
pay
himself.
Yeah, he supports himself. He has that nice white house. He can afford a picket fence. It's all good. But at the end of the day, you're like, hey, dude, you're closed yourself off. You basically have an addiction.
Well, it's like his head's in the clouds because he can't get along with anybody on Earth. Yeah. Like he just... That sounded like a Hallmark thing. I just made that up.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty funny. Anyway, speaking of Hallmark,
Hey.
speaking of just making shit up, this just in from Professor Chrissy Porter. Coming over the wire. How would Indy explain his dad to a Susie Cute skirt?
I don't like this question.
It's weird. Yeah.
Do you want me to go through another one? You want me
This
to
is
do
the
another
keeper
one?
of the curfew. You hope you don't get.
Okay. There is another one, actually.
Wow. I didn't know we were allowed to do
I
this.
didn't either.
Did Indy know his dad?
Just shuffled the deck. Came up with another one.
I did. I shuffled the deck. Yeah, I shuffled the telegraph machine. Did Indy know his dad was not after the historical Grail?
Whoa. Not the historical
See,
Grail.
you throw the little light one up there and you get shot down. Well, all right, we'll bring the heavy
Well, what are we
missile.
talking?
Let's go back to Susie Cute skirt.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I think it was a little bit
Oh,
like
thank
what
God.
is it historical? Is he interested in the artifact itself? Is he interested in the spiritual component of it?
See, that's
Yeah.
part of the thing that's really confused for me.
Yeah.
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 Is that, you'd think Henry, of all people in this entire movie, would be the one who was like, yeah, it's not a cup. It's not an object. That's not what the search for the Grail is about. But he seems to be totally, booby traps and lethal cunning and get your hands on the Grail. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
Well, that-
it seems
yeah.
like an actual artifact to him.
And that the booby traps make me think, like you guys were saying, like maybe it is just the thrill of a chase. Like it's just the adventure.
Yeah.
It's not really the thrill of the chase. It's cordoning off and sequestering yourself from the rest of the world and reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm kind of half kidding, but when I think about it, I'm not kidding at all.
Yeah.
Like we know how Indy's dad is drawn. He's like it's a little bit beyond eccentric and pixelated.
Yeah.
He's actually he's ignored his son for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. He's the kind of guy who, like, instead of spending time with his wife and his loved ones, he'll just, like, sit in the basement and talk about a movie 1 minute at a time.
Pretty much. He's a bookworm, not a fieldworm.
Exactly, yeah. It's really sad.
Hey, real quick, Lise, give us your favorite Indiana Jones movies in order.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Last Crusade.
That's it. Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I can add Last Crusade. I wouldn't even deign to see the second one again. I won't even name it.
Wow.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, no, I
really
disliked it. Yeah, I don't want to dirty my palate again by watching Temple of Doom.
Wow, strong words from Dr. Valentine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, Raiders is fantastic. And Marion, oh my God, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
What do you think of Elsa in this movie?
I gotta agree with you. She's sort of an afterthought because the whole thing is about the father-son relationship. I mean, Elsa, she's just kind of evil. I mean, she's interesting in that she is also a scholar. But beyond that, it's really just the ruse of, her trapping Indy. And then, well, those are future minutes, but I don't know. Yeah, Elsa, I didn't like. Marion is just so wonderful. No one can come close.
Do you see Elsa as a little bit of a Belloc figure? Or do you think she's like, is she more evil than Belloc?
Oh, good question. She might be a little less evil than Belloc. I don't know. It's I'd have to think about that harder. I don't know. I mean, they're both working with the Nazis. I guess they both. Do they lie? Does Belloc lie? Maybe not. I forget. Does Belloc lie?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
She lies.
Belloc seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Well, we thought, Belloc just used the Nazis to get the Ark, and they were basically bankrolling them.
Same with her,
what's more
though.
important? Is that right? I mean, are they the same? What comes first, being a Nazi or obtaining the Grail?
Oh no, obtaining. I mean, Donovan and Elsa both are using the Nazis they're trying to use each other, obviously, but no,
Sure.
they're not Nazis first. Neither of them. None of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, I have a final thought.
Okay.
Ooh.
Or actually, it's just a shout out to Dr. Christy Porter.
Whoa. Hey.
Yeah, I agree with her on the Brotherhood of the Broccoli or whatever it was. I swear to God, watching this movie again now, every time I heard cruciform, I was thinking cruciferous. So, we're on the same wavelength there.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's also awesome that you joined us, Lise. Thank you. These were a fun couple of episodes.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yay.
And listeners, if you want to be cruciferous like the Brotherhood, please eat your broccoli, eat your vegetables. It's good for you. We want you to be back here tomorrow to join us for minute 68 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
What about Barkus?
You, Dad.